Everquest TLP players are a polarized group, and every year when a new TLP is coming out, there is reams and reams and reams of conversation about what the server should be, and everyone arguing that their rule set is best. So on today's video, I'm going to dive in and have a look at some of your ideas from the community, give my thoughts on them, and also my thoughts on what I think the server will be, and answer that question is, do we even know what rule set we want? So let's get right on into it. So first up, we have this idea from the official forums from Zeus, and it's actually one of the more fleshed out ideas with reasoning that I've seen out there, so credit to you. And what they want is an era locked server in Omens of War and Dragons of Narath. And what they say with these era locked servers, that they protect the player's investment, that you can quit for 2 years, come back, your character is exactly how you left it, and you're not irrelevant straight away, and you can pick up and carry on and get playing. And that's probably the best reason for, and the best argument for, an era locked server, that is, your character's there, it's never going away, it's never going to change. But what happens, say, with Aina, is a very niche community. There's only a very, very small subset of players that can keep raiding Plane of Time for 4 or 5 years every week, just to try and hope to get that one last best in slot item, and then you get it, and then what? You quit? I don't know. I started playing on Agnar, but I stopped fairly quickly. I didn't take it very, very far at all. So yeah, while you can quit for 2 years and come back and your character's exactly the same, will the guilds be? Will people have left? I don't think that they maintain a good enough population and will have a lot of interest to make it a very profitable endeavour for Daybreak. TLPs are fast paced and hard to keep up with, and I'm going to flip that on its head a little bit. I think that actually makes it very good for casual players because you don't burn out. I have said time and time again that the old 3-month cycle of TLPs was way too slow. Kunark for 3 months is, I don't want to ever do that again. 8 weeks is way more than enough, to be honest, for Kunark. There's only so much content there, and there's not a lot of it in Kunark whatsoever. Once you start actually analysing it, there's not actually all that much to do. I prefer the faster unlocks. I don't burn out anywhere near as fast. I get to raid, and certainly say on a server like Oakwind with the evolving rule set, you can kind of balance out those faster unlocks with more loot, or the potential for more loot, and it works fairly well. Era lock servers allow you to stay in an era that you enjoy, so you can play in a long term. And again, absolutely a niche player that will do that for the most part, because what I think this idea is kind of forgetting, that there are better unofficial era lock servers out there with a dev team that can really focus and give a lot of attention to that one server. And the best example is the Quorm server, the unofficial Quorm server, which has seen huge player base going into it, and it's actually been a lot of fun to play because it is an era lock server done better by people that care about that server. So I think if you want an era lock server, look outside of the Daybreak official TLPs and go look and see what the Quorm server is doing, because that is way more fun. The next idea comes from Wasari on the official forums, which is Bazaar from day one, and it's one line. So not quite as well thought out, or any kind of reasoning given for this one. And the early Everquest experience in that tunnel, it generates a lot of community. Like, everybody knows about the Common Lands tunnel, everybody goes there to trade your wares. It's also very good for making chrono early on, buying from the market and selling. And if you know you're bartering and you're a keen trader, you can often buy an item a quieter time of the day for a little bit cheaper and sell it at the busy time when everyone's on for sometimes more platinum. And there's a lot of players that do that, and it's a good way to make early platinum and chrono. My problem with the tunnel is I just don't have the time to be buying and selling, and there's websites that help and make it a little bit easier, but it's not as easy or convenient as, say, the Bazaar. So how would you implement Bazaar from day one? Well, you'd need to add like a portal probably from the tunnel that took you to the Bazaar, and then disable the zone lines from the Bazaar that would take you to Shadowhaven, Nexus, or Plane of Knowledge. So doable, but that means work. And what's the benefit for Daybreak for doing that? They might sell some more chrono with it. They might, and people using those kind of point systems as well. There might be more accounts that people start up. I always have a trader up on the Bazaar, and you need a separate account to make sure you've always got that trader up. Now, were there problems on, say, Oakwind with the Bazaar? 100% there was. Everybody knows about the dupe, and I'm not going to go over that again. But that was completely Bazaar led. So does it introduce inflation into the economy earlier? I think it probably does. And the economic stability and health of a server, as we've seen, is super crucial to the well-being of a server, and something Daybreak haven't really thought about or given as much attention as they really should have done, as we saw with what happened on Oakwind, because that dupe really rocked that server, and it should never have happened. So I'm not against Bazaar from day one, not massively for it either. Don't think it will happen. The next post from Dedoozle, and doesn't really have too much of an exact idea, but more of a collection of what rule sets they would like to see on this server. And the first one being Relax TrueBox. TrueBox is a code that's embedded into the client that stops you from connecting multiple instances to the same server from the same PC. In theory, that's great. That's how it used to be back in the day. And modern computers obviously can handle running 30, 40 instances of Everquest without much of a problem. And there's programs out there that will automate and do all kinds of crazy stuff that you see on live. And TrueBox was idea to kind of prevent that and keep it true to that traditional Everquest experience. And a more recent adaptation was Omens of War. It goes to Relax TrueBox. So that's when population starts to decline, so they want to make it easier for people to box, and you're allowed to connect to up to 3 clients per computer, which again I think it's a good idea. I like boxing myself, and for a lot of people having 6 computers or more sat around them isn't feasible. The problem with TrueBox is people cheat and get around that code. There's ways around that code. You think those people that you see running through Plane of Knowledge, Plane of Tranquility, those people that are doing Plane of Time and selling the loot are doing this by the rule set, are doing this with 60, 70 computers all around them. No, that's ridiculous. They're not. They're cheating, and they're using programs to get around that code and to automate characters and sell loot for profit. One way, potentially to counter that is opening up TrueBox for more people and starting with Relax TrueBox. 3 computers per server. That'd be an interesting start. Wouldn't necessarily be against that again. But on a new TLP, some of my favorite experiences have come with grouping with 5 other real players playing 1 character, or maybe 2 at the maximum, because say a bard's easy to box or a cleric or whatnot. It isn't with myself playing 6. I'll do that and I can have a lot of fun with that, but on a brand new TLP, it's all about making connections to that community. So I would rather group with 6 people. It's the much faster for me leveling experience as well. He also wants no random loot. I didn't mind the random loot on Mischief. I just thought there was too much loot on Mischief. It's so much so that it took away from the the group loot. It made it kind of irrelevant. Why get group loot when there's so much raid loot out there? And it also stopped guilds raiding, surprisingly. Like, why go and kill Avatar of War and go through all that killing statue idol who drops no loot and Avatar of War when you can 4-split, 5-split Yellonak, who's ridiculously easier and has the same chance of dropping that same Avatar of War loot? You wouldn't. You'd choose the easy option, which is doing Yellonak 4 or 5 times for the loot bonanza. So again, I really like Mischief. Mischief has proven to be a strong rule set that has taken people through much further than any other TLP ever has. I would be surprised if they haven't looked at that for this year and going to do something similar. There's a lot of people out there that missed the boat on Mischief, and they would certainly jump onto this new one. No FTE. The limits 54-man mage armies. Actually, I found I was worried about FTE before it came out, and you know how much it's impacted my gameplay. Like over the course of Oakwind, 0%. 0%. So, if that's something that's in every TLP moving forward, I'd be fine with it. You know, when it comes to taking it out, and then you're introducing like that train mechanic again into the game. You're introducing those CS tickets again for training, which doesn't happen anywhere near as much on Oakwind. It's still possible, but it doesn't happen anywhere near as much. So I don't know if they want to make a conscious decision to increase the CS tickets that they have to deal with people complaining about training. TSS release Prox Velius with Zerkers and Beast Lords. And interesting one, because Everquest players, in my mind, they're not, certainly the TLP players, one harmonious group. You have a very strong subset of players that will restart every single year, but they'll only do it if they start in Classic, and there's a lot of them, and they buy bags, and they buy chrono, and they spend a lot of money, and they typically fall off, sometimes in Velius, maybe Luckland. They know that there is this very sizable group of players that will do this, that want to start in Classic every single year. I foresee at least one of the servers will start in Classic at the very least, because they need that demographic to come back and buy the bags and buy the chrono and play for a year. So one server 100% I will lock in will start in Classic. I'd be surprised if both of them, to be honest, don't start in Classic, or maybe Classic with Kunark. I would actually like that if it was a Kunark start. And with Zerkers and Beast Lords, why not? But there's not a lot of gear out there early on for Zerkers and Beast Lords to be like. They don't have the armor sets necessarily. They don't have the curve of armor potentially, and they were added to a lot of items, but not everything. That's also a lot of work to put in trainers in every city that those classes can be at. Maybe you need to add some more, which you'll never do. Like for Beast Lords, for example, it's too much work. Zerkers, where potentially you could add in another race, but I just don't foresee them doing that. Combine Eldon and DON type X-Packs with big boy releases like Pot. Well, they're already doing that. So I've no concerns. Eldon comes midway through Planes of Power, and it's a good little addition at that point. Once you've already cleared through time a whole bunch to go get Ogs. Some of the raids are fun, most of them aren't. So I'm not too bothered about Eldon, and DON is already lumped in with Omens of War, so that's fine. That's already there. And then for the crazy one, he says go back to play nice policy. Hire GMs, police the server. They've tried that. It lasted 2 weeks on Aradoon. They hired a GM to just do Aradoon, and it didn't work. It failed miserably. I don't foresee them necessarily doing that. So next up comes on another thread that was started by Mark, who really gives us nothing. It gets a bit. Someone comes out with a bit more of a fleshed out idea further down from Zinth, and what they want is semi-random loot, one normal item from the mob and 1 random. That I think is a nice way to do it. You know you're going to get the mask in Lower Guck from that one camp, but you're also going to get something else. Maybe that would work too, or maybe you'll go and do 3D in Sol B, the 3D guy, and you'll get one of his items and something random, and you know that might be a good way to kind of handle it and kind of balance that randomness, which was very much on the deep end for that random, fun, crazy server, which was how they advertised it at the time. That was Mischief. Double loot or reduced lockout times. Double loot on raids for sure. I think Oakwind has proven that that's actually a good way to kind of handle it. You know, you got the chance of additional bonus loot on Oakwind. Mischief went and took that idea and dialed it to 100. I liked how Oakwind handled that. Reduced lockout times I don't like so much at all, because I don't want to raid anymore than I am doing. 2-3 nights a week is more than enough for me. I don't want to be raiding 6 nights, 7 nights a week. Free trade and first to engage, I'm fine with both of those, as I've already said. Trilogy start for 6 months, so that means starting in Velius and it lasting 6 months. And again, I still think that might be a little bit too long for like that trilogy era. How it typically works right now is 4 weeks classic, 8 weeks of Kunark, 8 weeks of Velius. So that's like what, 4 or 5 months. So you maybe dialing that even longer. It's too long for me for that early on. The raids are easy, the content isn't the best, and while I like that era to a degree and I like playing it to a degree, I don't like doing it for too long. And by like that 6th, 7th, 8th week in Kunark, you know, I'm playing other games. Double keys on everything is the only one that's kind of new in there. The biggest one early on being Vishan's Peak. They've made those key mobs mostly easier. The bottlenecks that you have now are the ground spawns and Trakanon's teeth. Should Trakanon drop more teeth? Probably. Should those ground spawns in Swamp and Kezara work differently? Probably. The biggest problem actually I've ever had in Kunark is with Howling Stones, and they've tried to make that Sanak in the castle one easier. Great. Zalgos is still a pain with lines. I find it strange that they block that content and make it just a time sink to get access to it. TLB PvP, well, that's not happening. And lastly, the one I was going to look at, a new 5150 server which starts in Eldon. So starting at level 51 with 50 AA in Eldon. They've tried that before and it was fun for a week and it just didn't last. It didn't have any teeth. I cannot see them doing that. I also don't see them doing a server like Veniki so much, where it's starting really late and clumping a whole bunch of expansions in. I like the idea of Veniki. I like that idea of a challenge. I just thought that kind of rule set with the expansions was a little bit odd. So do we know as a community what we want from a TLP in 2024, the 25th year? And the answer is clearly we don't. So many different people with so many different ideas. There's so many different groups that will only play if it hits these criteria, or if it starts in Classic and quit out at Velius. It really is all over the show. And if you look back at recent TLPs and how they fared, Oakwind did okay until the dupe, and that completely destroyed the server for the most part. Jelinek was probably the quietest server launch and probably the quietest server that they've launched in recent times, and that was a very vanilla rule set, so can't necessarily see them doing that again. Before Jelinek you had like Mischief, which absurdly well, a very well done server with a developer that cared about it and made changes to it as it went, and it's still going very, very strong to this day. Before that, you also look at things like Aradun. Aradun was again a special server which had a lot of eyes. It hit at the right time with world events. It was a very, very busy server, and it was supposed to be this policed server, and it didn't work. And then we had the 20th year anniversary, and people were saying, yeah, the 25th year is going to be amazing. and the 20th year was interesting. They had rule sets which literally were awful, terrible, and they had to basically redo them with like 2 weeks before the server launched. Celos was fun for a little while. Did go through all the way to live with at least one raiding guild, and Mangler was just became another server which has progressed and is dwindling out the further it goes. So, do we know what we want as a community? No. There's too many different people that want too many different things. But Daybreak already know what they're doing this year. They've said as much. We already have rule sets in mind. And remember, we go back to what they said in their roadmap. Multiple servers for this year. It was plural, multiple rule sets. So I'm thinking they're trying to cater to as many people as possible to cast that net out wide, get those people that only want to start in Classic, and get a group that want to see the later expansions. And they want you to see the later expansions. This group of developers are making content to this day that's brand new, and they want people to experience that. So yes, they want people to progress through at a steady pace and get to live. And there's also fantastic expansions along the way as well. I'm interested to see what they come out with for this year. Time will tell. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see from a TLP this year, and whether you think we as a community even know what we want. I want to give a huge shout out to our channel supporters. Thank you so much for your continued support. It helps me keep making content for you about this game, which I'm so passionate about. If you're interested in becoming a member, the button's down below. Also appreciate if you want to see me. If you want to see more videos, hit that subscribe button and you'll get a notification on when I make more. And also appreciate anyone that could like the video if you've enjoyed it. I'm the Brick Canuck, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.